Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Finding Your Passion for Art Later in Life. This is our last session in the Arts and Culture track for Iowa Ideas 2025, brought to you by the Gazette and our presenting sponsor, ITC Midwest. We're so glad to have you here with us today. In this session, we're going to be looking at how people find their passions later in life, what art means to older adults, and the benefits of getting more artistic later in life. My name is Elijah Decius. I'm our features reporter here at the Gazette, as well as the track lead for the Arts and Culture track. I'll be your moderator as we navigate one of the last interesting topics of Iowa Ideas this year. We have a great panel today, so first let's meet all of our panelists. Up first, we have Tim Askland. Tim, tell us about yourself.
So, hi, my name is Tim Askland, and I'm affiliated with the Des Moines Art Center. So the Art Center is a museum, an art school, and a sculpture park. So it kind of makes up three different pieces. I volunteer at the Art Center as a docent, and I've been doing that for a little over 2 years.
Awesome. Thank you. Next up, we have Rob Med. Rob, tell us about your organization and the work you do.
Oh, good morning. My name's Rob Med, and I just recently retired from a 37-year teaching career in the Iowa City Public Schools, directing bands there. But I'm here in the capacity of the Iowa City Community Band, which is an organization I've been involved with for nearly 40 years. But for the last 18 years, I've been the musical director and conductor of the Iowa City Community Band.
Awesome. How many members do you have in that?
Well, it's a very fluid membership. We have about actually close to 150 people who cycle in and out. Some people play as few as one concert each summer, and we have a number of people who play all 8 or 9 concerts. So, but we have a great deal of participation. So.
Great. Next up, we have Tom Rockland. Tom, tell us what you do here.
Hi, Elijah. Yeah, I'm the vice chair of the University of Iowa Senior College Committee. We offer courses for seniors. Really, they're open to anybody, but they're geared to seniors. And among our most popular courses are courses in the arts, including the visual arts, music, and a variety of others.
Great, thank you. We also have Naomi Ruckus Rose. Naomi, tell us about you and your organization and all the great work you do.
I work 2 different jobs in my life right now. I'm art director at Premier Guitar Magazine, where I do a lot of graphic design work for that magazine. And then the organization that I'm representing here today is Eastern Iowa Arts Academy. We are a nonprofit in Cedar Rapids, and we specialize in bringing art and music opportunities to people of all ages and all abilities. And my role there started in 2018. And I have progressed wearing multiple different hats, but currently my hats are I am the director of our Rock Academy program, which is a youth rock band program. And I'm also, I act as their creative director, also musician, songwriter, and all sorts of artsy stuff.
Awesome. I'm sure you have a full plate there.
Yeah.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have Tim Charles. Tim, tell us about yourself and what you do.
Sure. First of all, the microphone works okay?
Yep.
Okay. All right, great. I just want to say, Naomi, I'm really thrilled you're on the call because I was going to reference your organization as
cool.
resource. And I think Allie Harder works with all of you.
Yep, she's on our board.
Right on. Okay. So I am, I guess, I'm technically retired, although I'm extremely busy. I was formerly the president and CEO of Mercy Medical Center in Cedar Rapids up until the end of 2022. In my retirement, I have taken up a particular interest in aging, and from a number of which sort of is yeah, we should all laugh, it's but it in particular I'm focusing on those issues associated with individuals that are aging into some degree of cognitive impairment, and the connection, the intersection of the arts and brain health is an arena that is becoming much more studied. And I'm very curious about it. And I actually believe it's one of the possible solutions while we chase after the magic pill.
Yeah. And you're representing the DeWolf Innovation Center?
So, well, I'm involved there along with other organizations, but I've continued working on a project that I started when I was still at Mercy, which is the DeWolf Innovation Center for Aging and Dementia.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, let's get it started here. We have a big number of panelists here, so it's going to be a great discussion. Since this is one of our last art sessions, in fact, the last art session, and it's a little more unique than your average topic, I wanted to open this in a little more creative way. Tell me how you all first fell in love with art, and if it's something you came back to later in life, what was it that brought you back? We'll start with Tim Askland on that one.
Well, I would say that mine's more about creativity rather than just a certain type of art. Yeah. I've always admired lots of different types, and I would say through poetry, song, dance, all these types of things I've always done throughout my life. But as I've gotten I've become retired as well as some of you others. And I need to find ways to express myself in a manner to show that creativity, because I used to be at work. I would be the one that everybody came to and said, hey, we need to come up with new ideas. How do we implement it? How do we train all the others? I did a lot of training, did a lot of those types of things. So this now gives me a chance to be a docent, get in front of others, teach them, hear from them, try to inspire them to come out with their creative juices and apply those. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Thank you. Rob, you are in music. Tell us how you first fell in love in music and what's kept you engaged so much throughout your life.
Sure. Well, I think music has been important to me from the time that I remember listening to my dad play the trumpet. And he had a big band back in the 40s, but that was not his career choice. As a child, listening to him play just for his own enjoyment, whether it was piano or trumpet, always inspired me. And then, of course, I came up through the public school music program, but I always enjoyed. I enjoyed poetry. I enjoyed visual arts, art class. And I was just, I knew from a very early age that I wanted to be involved first of all, in music and the arts. And as I said, I've had a long career teaching music for the last 37 years or more. And I don't know that I have come back to it in a way. During my career teaching, I would always play, mostly for my students and a little for myself. I was not able to really. I played off and on with the Iowa City Community Band, but especially when my last 30 years teaching at Iowa City West High School, really not able to do a lot of performing on my own or performing. And so now in retirement, I have gotten back, and I not only direct the Iowa City Community Band, but I play cornet with the Iowa Brass Band here in Eastern Iowa, and getting back to actually doing some performing and playing in an ensemble. And so I not only get a chance to see that coming back to the arts with participants in the community band, but I've definitely experienced that myself coming back to actually performing and making music with others, it's been quite an experience to get a chance to do that.
I'm sure it has been.
Yeah.
Naomi, how about you? How did you fall in love with art?
I have never known a life without it, really. I'm very privileged, and I mean that from the depths of my soul to be able to say that. My mom was super creative, super crafty growing up. Anything that we would be learning at home would be accompanied with a song or, you know, a little dance or some sort of project to go with it. And then my dad, he played guitar, acoustic guitar, and he played bass in a band back in the day. And so music was just always there as soon as I was able to, before I was able to reach the microphone. We were singing in like church and stuff and propped up on stools to reach the, the microphone and stuff. And so art has always, I lump music into art, obviously. Art has always been there. And throughout my life, I can see how it has been a lifeline in certain phases of, you know, adolescence and then going off into life on my own. I just turned 39 a couple weeks ago, and I heavily played in the local music scene. And when COVID hit, I stopped, obviously, for all the reasons that that brings. And I haven't played out since. And so recently I just looked back and reflected about like, why was I not compelled to, you know, get back on the horse and perform and bring my art to the world. And I have discovered a different, you know, era of my life with art now. It's for me, and I get to decide who gets to hear it and who gets to see it. And it's more of a celebration now instead of therapy for me. Again, this is just a season of life. Tomorrow might be different. And so getting involved though with the kids, the rock band program I'm involved with, the teenagers, I love to be on the other side or the other end of the stage now, equipping these kids to learn how to be good to each other, learn how to express themselves. Yeah, it's just been a lot of different eras, I guess, so far.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I'm the youngest one here on the panel, so I sort of feel a little, you know, unqualified to be in, you know, talking about being older in life, but like I got some eras on me too.
I don't know. I think Taylor Swift has that copyrighted. You might want to be careful.
All right, you're right.
Yeah. I just FYI, I do beat you here. I'm 31. So
All right.
yeah. Tom, tell us about how you fell in love with art and maybe how you came back to it later in life.
Sure. I think I've always had a modest interest in art, but not a passion, not a compelling interest. When I was young, I enjoyed photography, but honestly, more the technical side than the artistic side. I kind of liked the dark room, but the particular making the image wasn't as much fun for me. A couple of things happened later in my life. First of all, my late wife, who was a surgeon, got sick, which allowed her to do something she'd always been putting off, which was to explore her art production. And so actually behind me is one of her paintings that she did during her illness. There's another one over there. And that example got me more interested. And then the other thing is that after she passed away, sometime after that, I married someone who's very interested in art. She's a docent at the Stanley Museum here, Tim. And that was also inspirational. And so since retirement in particular, I've gotten much more interested in looking at visual art and producing writing as things. And, you know, it is a a very different era in my life too. Naomi.
Absolutely. And Tim Charles, I think you're a painter also, if I remember correctly. Tell me, how you fell in love with art, and if you came back to it later, tell me how that path happened.
Yeah. So I was fortunate. I lived in kind of an art-rich family and environment, and I grew up in New England, and we would visit my grandparents often in New York City. And one of the things that always happened is we were drugged to any number of art museums and galleries. So the exposure came early. However, my interest in actually participating in creating art came late. Actually, about 25 years ago, uh, my three boys gave me a gift, and the gift was that they had tried to paint two very large murals, except that they only got partially done by Christmas. And so they gave me these blank canvases, and they sat in a closet for some time. And one Sunday, I just said, and I'm sure there was a glass of wine involved. I said, can I have those canvases and just play? And I pulled a bunch of house paint that I had stored from painting our home, and our home has always been very colorful. And I just started channeling, the guy who is often referred to as Jack the Dripper, Jack Pollock. And I just messed around, and I discovered that it was one of the most relaxing, joyful kind of moments that I had experienced in some time in the midst of the stress of my everyday life. And so that became kind of a weekly practice that might only be 30 minutes. But I just came to love it and have stuck with it.
Yeah. It's really interesting how some of these seeds planted really early on in life that we sometimes just disregard and set aside how they sprout all those decades later. So some people, as you all have illustrated, discover their passion for art at an early age. Others take a longer path to falling in love with the arts. Tell me what each of your organizations do to connect older adults with the arts and rekindle that spark. You've already told us a little bit in your introductions, but tell us more about what you're doing day to day with folks, and more specifically, what prompts folks to want to come back to art as they get older? What makes them want to re-engage with it later in life? We'll start with Tim Charles on this one.
Yeah, so I'm going to speak to it from a couple of different perspectives. One is I'll start with the work that's being done at the DeWolf Innovation Center for Aging and Dementia, and that is that first of all, if you walk into that space, what you're going to note is that there's a tremendous amount of art that has been gathered and curated by Kathy Good, who's the director there. And that's very intentional and very deliberate, because individuals with dementia actually respond to art, particularly representative art. And it's one of the ways in which they're able to engage and be engaged with. But also there are other activities that occur there that zero in on other arts. For example, there is a respite program, and there are individuals within that respite program, some of whom have Parkinson's. And so there's a heavy music component. The Together in Song chorus was developed probably, I'm going to say, about 8 years ago. It kicked off. There were 25 individuals that participated. There are now about 80 individuals. And these are individuals with dementia, with Parkinson's, and their caregivers. And they come together and they sing. And as you probably all have experienced, individuals can be living with even significant challenges with respect to dementia, and yet they can sit at a piano and they can immediately recall tunes that they have played their entire life. So the arts in so many different forms are just powerful tools to enrich individuals' lives, but also in some sense, enable them to re-engage. And in fact, the other evening, Kathy Good held a karaoke evening for individuals with dementia. And it was a beautiful and moving experience for families to watch their loved ones actually sing tunes from years ago. So that's on one dimension. The other is that I am very engaged and very curious about a whole new arena of research, which is neuroaesthetics, which is again actually beginning to understand how the arts fire up the brain. Which, quite honestly, we're all really good about taking care of ourselves physically as we get older. We kind of do the obvious thing, but keeping our brains really kind of alive and developing requires some extra effort. And the arts are just hugely powerful in igniting so many regions and areas of the brain. So that's occurring. I will mention that the Cedar Rapids Museum of Art has all kinds of programs that are geared toward individuals with that are aging. But in particular, all of their docents have been trained now to be dementia friendly. In other words, they're prepared to assist individuals to appreciate and enjoy the museum, even if they're dealing with dementia.
Absolutely. Thank you for all that. Tom, you're at the senior college. What brings folks back to art later in life? What makes them want to re-engage?
Yeah, I think, most of our students are retired. I'd say that's almost universal. And retirement is a time of reinventing yourself, of defining a new identity for yourself. And so I think a lot of people have a hint in their past that maybe they were someone who was interested in the arts, maybe they produced art, or maybe they just really enjoyed observing art. And they wonder what would happen if they rekindle that. And so they take some of our courses, which typically our art courses are among our highest enrollments every term. They're just very popular. We've got some great instructors who teach commonly the titles they come up with will surprise you, like railroads as art patrons. Well, I didn't even know railroads were art patrons, but it turns out there's a whole genre of art that was sponsored by railroads, partly for commercial reasons, and but it charts the West for us in some ways. So anyway, I think the big thing is that when people are thinking about who they are, sometimes they find, I think art is maybe part of who I am.
Yeah, I seem to remember, some train stations and other just transportation depots, they have big murals. They might have been commissioned during the Depression era. I don't know if that's related to what you're talking about here, but
yeah, we had a whole course on mural size work, which much of it was commissioned by the WPA.
Yeah.
The stuff I'm talking about was just paintings on walls that
okay.
Railroads wanted to have. Yeah.
Great. Rob, tell us what makes folks want to re-engage with music and get the band back together after retirement.
Well, our community band in Iowa City is it's an open group. As I mentioned, we have as many as 150 people each year that will participate in one or more concerts. So it's non-auditioned. We have people that contact us through our Facebook page and say, "Hey, I just moved to town," or I'm here, finished school, and I'm starting work, and I would like to have an opportunity to play again. And they come in, and our membership really ranges in age we have a handful of high school students right on up through people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s playing in the group. And so, it's something everybody in the group had played somewhere along the line. Many in in school in their youth. And as I mentioned, for some people, they played in high school and they went off to college. They did their degrees, and now they're in a job and they're in a new community, and they want in our community to get to know people, and they come back at that point in their life. We have other people who played and have gone and completed their careers and retired, and something about playing their instrument, they in retirement, they find it in the closet and say, hey, I used to be able to do this, and they come back to us and get back to music at that point in their life. And we have, as I said, we've got some people in their 80s and 90s who we're really fortunate here in Iowa City, in the area. We have the New Horizons Band, which is another type of community band for those 55 and older, run through the senior center downtown, that has really kind of sparked a lot of people coming back to it later in life, after retirement and beyond. And we have people that get started with that group and they say, this is really fun. I'd like a little more. And they end up coming to us, and we have a lot of crossover of people from New Horizons to also playing in the Iowa City Community Band. And it's fun for me. I have former students in the band at various points in their lives. I have former band parents who watch their kids come through my program in Iowa City, and now their kids are grown, and I've got this instrument, I want to play again too.
Yeah.
So it's as I said, it's really been very fulfilling for me to teach elementary, junior high, and high school students as my career. And, to always tell those students, you can do this your entire life. This is something you can do. And then to work with the community band and see people actually doing that at all various points in their life is extremely fulfilling.
Yeah. Tim Asplund, you are a docent. Tell me what makes folks re-engage with art in your experience.
Well, I was going to go into kind of what we've been doing at the Art Center.
Yeah.
So we do tours with fourth graders in the whole Des Moines area. So we concentrate a lot on that, but we said we were missing kind of that 55 plus individuals. So we started up classes, sessions, I'd say about a year and a half ago, that are focusing on those individuals, and we call it creative aging. And so we have sessions each month. They're about an hour and a half. And the first hour is we focus on one piece of art. And then we have an activity, a discussion about that piece, about what we think. And then we learn more about the artist and the piece from the artist's perspective. And then we have a half hour of social interaction at the end with coffee and teas and so on. So that way we get some people out into the community, meeting each other different ways, because a lot of people, again, are isolated, don't always get out and talk to others. We've had a big response to this offering. So we started a year and a half ago with one session. After about 2 months, we were getting about 90% of the people coming back, and others wanted to get in. So we added another session. And then about 6 months after that, we added 2 more sessions. So we now have 4 sessions that we do each month. And one of the sessions is focused on individuals with Parkinson's, which, Tim, you had mentioned that type of thing too, just to, again, a way for them to get out of their place. We do a little bit of yoga movements in there as well in the session to keep them stretched out. So that's kind of what we've been doing. And that's kind of really helping people get more engaged again with the art. A lot of them have gotten away, and it gets them into the Art Center. It gets them thinking. They're seeing other offerings that we have. So it's not only looking at the art, but we also have films, or we have speakers. We had a bell group that came in from Minneapolis that stopped through and played bells. So we have lots of different offerings that everybody's taking advantage of.
Awesome. Is art something that you have to have prior experience with in order to re-engage later in life? I think there are probably folks watching this right now who maybe are a little bit interested, but they might be intimidated by it. Tom, I want to hear from you on this one. Do people have to have
Sure.
experience to get back into it?
I think one of the great things about approaching art later in life is the lower pressure. If you get engaged young, you and others around you are going to have expectations and you might have aspirations. At my age, if I'm taking up a new artistic endeavor, it's just for me. I don't really have any delusions about the great accomplishments that I'm going to have in my art career. And so I think it's a different experience when you're doing it because you enjoy it and for no other reason at all. I mentioned that I've taken up a little bit of writing, and younger I would have worried about where I was going to publish it. Now I just write it.
That must be really freeing to be able to feel that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Rob, do people have to have experience in music to get back into it? Or is it, for those who have been in it before, is it like riding a bike, so to speak?
Well, as I mentioned, we have a lot of, most of our members have previous experience earlier in their life. But we also, I'm thinking of a former band parent. His two sons played in my bands over the years. Turns out his wife also played, and he had no prior experience. And he decided that he wanted to play French horn, and found some lessons, and got those going, and got involved with the New Horizons group, and has also come and played once or twice with the community band. Those opportunities are out there. We're, again, with the university and across Iowa, there's a lot of, with our universities, small colleges, people have that opportunity for lessons. And we're fortunate here with West Music Company and others that provide that opportunity. It is a little bit. I mean, as I said, our membership in the community band, it's kind of hard to start without any experience and try to jump into what we're doing. But there are opportunities to get involved. And take that up. And again, like you said, with the expectations, you're doing it for yourself, and it's and the people that I've talked to who've done that, they're not looking to, go out necessarily even and perform. Some people take the lessons on a musical instrument, and it's that process of learning the instrument, learning how to manipulate the instrument, how to make music, how to read music, that is the real true benefit to the person doing it. More so at that point in life, especially, than to try to provide a product that you're going to present to an audience.
Yeah. A lot of folks think that being an artist means hanging your work in a museum or, having a mural around town. We have these very lofty ideas of what it means to be at the peak in art or music. People don't think of themselves as artists. How do you get them into the mindset that art is for everyone? How do you get them to express themselves in ways that might be brand new to them? Let's start with Tim Charles on this one.
Well, first of all, I'd like to remind everybody I talk to about this arena, that they have been creative their entire life in various forms. You can't get through life without being a creative human being. We just don't tend to call it creativity. Now, what we're talking about is a particular arena of art. And I think the problem we get into is that we confuse the product for the process. And what we're really talking about here is the benefit of the process. And I love Tom's, comment about, you do it for yourself. Well, honestly, up until probably recently, no one really knew that I painted. You had to come to our home to see the art because it was for my own pleasure. And I'm very clear that it's for my own pleasure. But you can begin anywhere. I hope that in my telling my own personal story, I started with a canvas that had been given to me, and I had house paints and I had pencils. I used house paints and pencils to kind of do the first piece that sort of let me know that I could do something. Um, and so, I think you can begin anywhere with what's available to you, recognizing that you probably have been creative in a variety already. The last thing I just wanted to add, though, sounds like that, you go into a closet and you do this on your own, and, nobody's, have any kind of need to see any of this. Well, there's also great joy in finding communities of people that are like you, and a great way into new communities as well.
Absolutely. Something I've noticed is that people who kind of fall in love with their art form, they start with the scraps around the house before they feel like they've earned the chance to buy some really nice supplies. I started writing poetry on the Notes app on my phone, and then I just started like using scraps around the house before I actually bought a notebook to put them in. So, Naomi, you have worked with kids all the way up to older adults. Tell me how you get them into that mindset that they can be an artist as well.
I was talking to you on the phone earlier this week. I will die on the hill of saying if you make anything creative, say anything creative, you're an artist. Like it's not a title you have to earn. That's so ridiculous. Um, the individuals that come to the Arts Academy, we've got professional artists by the actual meaning, like it's their profession, they're making their money on it, all the way down to, I shouldn't say all the way down to, all the way to people who have no clue. This is their first, dip in the water of experiencing art. And the classes that I've been involved in with individuals that haven't had much experience, I think encouragement is like something that, we as adults maybe don't think we need anymore, but like we need it, man. Like encouraging the person next to you that's like making something that isn't going according to their plan, like just telling them, who cares? It's art. Like, why does it even matter? Are you having fun? Are you learning something? Are you experiencing something new? Are you interacting with your peers? Like the end result, like art is like one of the only things in life where the end result doesn't matter. And that is something I feel like is just, it's freaking magic, man. Like that is, it's such a treasure to like take advantage of and to throw yourself into, no matter how it turns out. And so like I just try to like harp on that message to people that come in and experience something that isn't going according to their plan, because it's the journey. And I think that's what people don't realize. Like the experience and messing up is what leads to more creativity. Like you aren't just blessed with creativity. Like once you start creating, you get more of it. Once you start exercising the brain, your brain wants more of it. It, not to make it like, I don't know, not to go dark here, but it's kind of like the healthiest drug you can get, like your brain becomes addicted to wanting more of it because it knows that it's good for you, And so like, I don't know. I try to just be quirky and encouraging at the art, art classes and stuff. But deep inside, man, I just want that soapbox to be like, no, just keep going. Like this is going to be something so valuable to you. And that is the same for the 60-year-olds and the 90-year-olds. It's there's no limit.
Well, you heard it here first. Art is the drug that you can use here. So, Tom, tell me, how you get people to take that first step, draw that first stroke. Just
Right.
get into it, get past that mental block that some people have.
Yeah, I think Naomi hinted at this. It's about encouraging them to understand that that being an artist isn't something that you have to have conferred upon you. You can just claim it. You can just decide that you're an artist, and I make it sound easy, and it's not. Last summer I was at a writing festival doing a workshop, and I kept thinking. I mean, I've written all my life, but I still didn't think of myself as a writer. So I think the encouragement has to be, you actually don't have to be a writer to write, and you don't have to be a painter to paint. You can just do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim, Charles, I want to start with you on this next one as we shift gears. Tell us about the biggest benefits of re-engaging and falling in love with art later in life. You've talked a bit about brain health. I think that's really fascinating, and I think we have a little bit more to explore there.
Yeah. So, and Naomi, by the way, you are so on target with the fact that this is probably one of the most powerful means to access the natural drugs that our brain actually on an ongoing basis is releasing. I mean, the cocktail, so to speak, inside your head that's created when you engage in a creative activity is extraordinary. And there's a whole arena of research that is now actually taking flight that's only been made possible by new diagnostic technology that enables scientists to watch the activity of the brain in real time, fMRIs and EEGs. And so scientists are now studying how exposing individuals to various forms of art or participating in the art actually triggers releases of specific chemicals and chemistry. And one of the things we know about the brain is plastic. In other words, there can be damage in one place, and other regions of the brain can make up for that. So it's a really, really interesting area that's just emerging. There's incredible work that's being done at Johns Hopkins around this. There's work in several different academic centers around the country that are trying to understand this. What a great way to keep yourself excited, so to speak. Particularly, you may leave your work and you had all of that adrenaline in your work and all that. You could move into another arena where you're experiencing that same kind of flow that often experienced in your work, and you can get that through the arts.
Can I ask a quick question about that, Tim?
Yes.
Do they see the differences in your brain, synapses or whatever? Did they see the same benefits from participating versus consuming or just being surrounded by? Like, are those two different categories? Does that make sense?
Yeah, your brain, each of those actually triggers different regions of the brain, but it's all important.
Yeah.
I'll just name a book that is absolutely fantastic, very accessible introduction to this topic. And the title of the book is Your Brain on Art. And it was written by a researcher from Johns Hopkins named Susan Maxaman. And her co-author is Ivy Ross. And Ivy, I think, still heads up the design program, physical design program within Google. And they came together, collaborated, and wrote this book. The Aspen Institute actually just released a entire study and initiative around understanding how the arts contribute to brain health. So we're inching our way into it from a research and science perspective. I think this is going to be very, very dynamic over the next several years.
Absolutely. And, just to add to that, from interviews I've done with various experts on this subject, one of the terms they use for the brain is neuroplasticity. As you learn things later in life, it actually increases your brain's stretch to be able to do more. So, in 2023, the Surgeon General issued an advisory about an epidemic of loneliness and isolation, particularly among older adults. And that report noted the increased risk with isolation. It's tied to cardiovascular disease, dementia, stroke, depression, premature death. And what I thought was really interesting is that the health impact of being socially disconnected is similar to smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. Tom, I want to start with you on this one. Tell us how art reconnects us not only with ourselves, but with our community and brings us out of that isolation.
Sure. Community is about like-minded individuals, people who have some sort of interest in common. And the arts are probably in some ways special because they almost sharing art as an intimate act. So, we could be members of a service club together and not get to know each other very well. But if we do art together, we're going to get to know each other. And so I think art is a powerful force for community and a particularly potent way to make the connections that keep us healthy. And if we're recommending resources, there's a great documentary called Join or Die, which is about the effects of isolation and how being part of something extends life. But I think art is special in that respect.
Yeah. Tim Asklin, tell us your perspective on this topic. How does art reconnect folks with their communities? Does it make them less lonely? What kind of benefits do you see what do you see from the folks you work with?
Yeah, so we have noticed that, without the art, it does help on the loneliness factor and keep that from, keep people feel more connected. And we've started up a process at the Art Center doing art calls. And so we have docents that go out to senior living centers, those types of places, present a piece of art, let them discuss it and so on. Because again, a lot of people can't access and leave their buildings where they're at. So we're just trying to find ways to keep these people together. They have some type of community area where they can meet right there. Kind of gets them all have something more to talk about. Hopefully that connects more of the people and decrease that loneliness factor.
Yeah. Naomi, tell me what you see. Especially, I'm interested in the connection between generations here, since you work with all ages across the spectrum.
Yeah, it's really cool. We have a few different programs. So back in the day before COVID, our organization would go into these centers with the elderly and do classes there. We've run into this brick wall now of still dealing with COVID outbreaks and the individual centers protocol with that in relation to us. And so anyway, we unfortunately can't go anymore. So we're trying to do more things in house, which isn't the best answer in the world, but it's doing what we can with what we have, right? So we have weekly coffee and art club. That is Tuesday mornings. So that's a consistent thing that people can look forward to all of the time. It's a lot of older people, but they're just because that's the time of day that works for them. But there are some younger people that come as well, so that's something that they can look forward to every week. You don't have to necessarily even bring a project to work on. You can just be there and commune with people, and then there's always a professional artist there to help facilitate. Use our art supplies for free. Just come and create. We have different programs like that. We have different classes like that for people young and old to come together. And I think the mixing of the young and old is beneficial for both parties to gain experiences from. I mean, even me working with the teenagers, like I'm gaining so much knowledge and more compassion and empathy for what they're going through and how they see the world. And then me working alongside someone who is like double my age, how they see the world and how they interact with creativity. And it's just like a constant learning process. And I think it's really sad that we don't, as the United States, we don't have like that third space or whatever. We have work and we have home, and creating that third space for community it has to be purposeful, and that's so hard for a lot of us. And so I'm just really grateful that the Arts Academy is that third space for a lot of those people.
Absolutely. Rob, what can we do to make that third space more viable? What can we do to make the arts easier for others to discover?
Well, I think I wanted to just speak to this community because that is something obviously in our situation we are creating art, we're creating music together as a full ensemble of some 75, 80 people and people of all ages. And that is something that I get to see with the community band is, the high school students sitting next to an 80-year-old trumpet player who has been playing their instrument, throughout their life. And how that benefits, as Naomi, as you said, how it benefits both parties, obviously. But also, as people do age and can become more isolated, it's not only important, I think, to be together with others, but being together with others of different ages to get those different perspectives. And so I see that happening in our rehearsals and our concerts and our time together as an ensemble. I think making sure that people know these opportunities are out there. I just being involved in this panel, getting to see some of the other opportunities myself. It's I'm looking forward to taking advantage of some of these. For myself, getting that information out. I've been involved with the Iowa Bandmasters Association, which is primarily a group for school band directors across the state of Iowa. It's a very strong group, but they hold a registry of some over 100 community bands just in the state of Iowa. Usually I would say if you want to get involved, if music is something that you'd like to get involved with, playing in a group again, you can always contact your local school because oftentimes the community band is somehow tied. They rehearse at the high school, or the high school director may be the director of the community band that's there. So, without having or giving out this, large registry, just knowing that if you are interested in getting involved, contacting your local school director across the state of Iowa is going to probably get you pretty far in getting involved in a community band and getting involved in making music with others.
Absolutely. As we get into the last 5 minutes here, I want to ask how iWins can help you and your missions and, help you serve our communities. What can everyday folks do to make your missions easier and make art easier for others to discover? We'll start with Tim Charles on that one.
Um, I'm going to interpret your question in terms of mission. I'm going to look at it from two ends of the age spectrum. This is a bit of an editorial, but I feel very strongly about this. Actually, as we speak, I'm attending a conference in Des Moines, and it's a conference around what we're doing statewide to address those living with dementia and, in particular, Alzheimer's. And the presentation from the neurologist from Mayo began looking at what are all the risk factors we now know contribute. Number one is early education. And at the heart of what I think we've been saying today is that the arts are powerful. There's irrefutable evidence that early exposure to the arts in any form is hugely contributive to brain development, which will serve people throughout their life, but also later in life. So I think we need to protect and hold on to our arts programs in our schools. It's incredibly important. And then going later in life, I would say that anything we can do to just expose to the community to the myriad of opportunities that exist, so it just doesn't feel so formal and challenging to get involved. And I hear that from all the other panelists, and it's just been great to hear from you and get to know you today.
Absolutely. Naomi, in 30 seconds, tell us how iWins can help you further your mission.
Okay, mine is very tactical. We are a nonprofit, so we rely on grants and donations. The grants, we have a pretty good grant writer through our executive director. However, donations, we need them. That's monetarily, that's also physical goods. You can find our wish list on our website, easternisleartsacademy.org. And consider coming to one of our classes. All of the money that we make on our class fees goes directly back into financial aid for students to attend. 30 seconds done.
Thank you. Tim Asklin, what can iWins do to further your mission?
Mine's going to sound a lot like Naomi's from the standpoint of, yes, we rely on grants and donations for funds to come in, but we just want to make sure that people come in and visit and also use our classes that we offer, things like that. But also, we always want to remind everybody that we are always free. 6 days a week, we're open. So please come in and visit.
Tom, what can iWins do?
Real simple. Take some classes with us. They're real reasonably priced, $30, and we don't need your donations. We manage to run a largely volunteer organization. So www.foriowa.org/senior-college, and you don't have to be any particular age to take a class with us.
All right, and Rob, I'll give you the last word on what iWins can do to further the arts and your mission here.
Well, I think I would just suggest, again, getting involved. If you're not here in the Iowa City area, get involved in going to the concerts in your community, supporting live music, live arts. But also, to echo what Tim Charles said, support arts in schools. It's critical for kids. And as he mentioned, not only as they're kids, but as they become adults and into later in life, having that arts education early on is extremely critical.
All right. As we wrap up here, I want to thank all of our panelists for showing us how the arts open up our mind no matter what stage we're in at life. Such a unique topic and such a valuable topic right now. Thank you to everyone who tuned in, who was a part of Iowa Ideas today and yesterday. And a big thank you to all of our panelists for lending their ideas and their expertise. This is sadly our last Iowa Ideas session, but don't miss our closing keynote address by Doug Goach. the co-founder of Big Grove Brewery. His keynote will start at 1 p.m. Thank you all for helping us drive Iowa forward at this year's Iowa Ideas. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thanks for the opportunity.